Could you talk a little bit about maybe some of the IT trends that are coming up that maybe businesses should be on the lookout for, and maybe what impact they could have on somebody's business?
So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage here because I'm always kind of hyper-focused on, what we're doing today.
Right.
I as much as I try to be forward-looking, but I think business analytics and business intelligence is going to be very important coming up, and we talked a little bit about that before.
Kind of like IoT type stuff, or?
I mean, so to give you an example, Microsoft, if you get really deep into the Office 365 suite, has a lot of tools for automation, data analytics, and that's kind of a very high concept right now. There's only a few firms that are doing it. Only certain companies are doing it well. But ultimately, this is all about data.
Right.
Managing it, manipulating it, securing it, analyzing it, whatever the case may be. And tools that used to be only available to large companies and were very expensive are now becoming, cheaper, easier to use, and that kind of thing. So we're getting requests from our clients who are now on these cloud systems and have their data a little bit more, what's the word I want to use? Centralized, I guess.
Sure.
So now they want to be able to do stuff with that data that they didn't necessarily care about or even know was possible 10 years ago. So we just got a request not too long ago from a client who wants to make their payroll reporting easier. They have all this information in these different systems. They want to pull it out. They want to create dashboards. So the analytics and automation around that stuff is going to become, I think, popular in the next couple of years.
Okay.
So I think that's important. Communication is still a big driver of things. I'm sure a lot of the viewers are going to have traditional phone systems. We still find a lot of people who don't use some kind of messaging software and rely either on phone calls or emails. So I think that's becoming a thing. Microsoft is pouring a lot of money in research and development into Teams, their chat application, and all of the kind of ecosystem around that, what it can do. As in terms of like a project management, documentation, calling platform. So I think that's kind of big and up and coming. And then obviously the changes to security. A buzzword that's out there right now is SD-WAN.
Okay,
which
what's
is
that?
That is software-defined WAN. WAN being wide area network, basically a colloquialism for your internet connection.
Sure.
So as data shifts to the cloud, as servers are no longer located in your building, as people become more spread out and start working from different places, you need a way of connecting all these things. And it's not so much tied to the hardware that you have anymore, but software that runs all of this stuff. I guess that's the best example that I can give you. So I think that is going to start to become very popular. And the routes basically that information takes to get from point A to point B, 10 years ago that was a very difficult thing to link two buildings or two locations together. There were only a handful of options to do that, and I think that's becoming a little bit easier now, so that's going to kind of change the game of where people can work from and how information is connected.
Sometimes I think, I don't have a question, but it's sort of like how Rome was built, and it just kind of like we built this and it grew a little bit, and it doesn't make any sense because nobody ever sat down and planned it.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about the internet sometimes, where I just go, could we all just erase everything, just turn it all off, let's just start from scratch so that we can clean everything up, so that I don't need 75 passwords and this Gmail account that I can't get into again because I forgot, you know what I mean? Just all of this stuff, can we just start again and make it neat?
Well, I don't want to besmirch all the engineers that came, decades before me that certainly put a lot of engineering into making it all work. But yeah, sometimes I wish we could just do a reset.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned a lot of passwords. We spend a fair amount of time, obviously, preaching multi-factor authentication to people, which is the single most important thing that I think you can do. And I've got some competitors out there that also preach the same thing. It's maybe the one thing we all agree on as IT professionals.
Right.
So I think that's hugely important. But with implementing that, depending on how you kind of roll it out, you can make some really smart decisions around how you log into different applications and different websites. And so multi-factor authentication becomes more of a single sign-on thing, where you're logging in one time to one interface, and then you have all of the other options available to you to log in. So that combined with password management, I think, is a really useful tool that people can use to kind of streamline their day. And there's a cost to it, of course, and it takes a little bit of engineering to get it to work. But I think for every person who pushes back that some of this stuff is inconvenient, single sign-on, SSO, and combined with two-factor and password management is a really easy way of kind of lessening that burden. So we've been kind of pushing clients towards that last maybe 3 to 5 years, I would say. And I'll give you an example. I log into Office 365 every morning, username, password, multi-factor code, whatever. And then for the rest of the day, I don't need to log in anywhere. Any website that we use to do our job is tied to that credential. So it's just me clicking on bookmarks all day long. So that lessens the burden quite considerably.
Sure.
So I like things like that. I like the efficiency of it, and I think that's something that if people kind of open to multi-factor and how this all works, they could save a little bit of time and effort.
And before we go, could you talk a little bit about maybe some misconceptions that people have about cybersecurity?
Yeah, the biggest one that I still deal with is how to make a good password.
Okay.
And I think that we as a society and IT people have instilled these habits in people that have caused people to make really, really bad passwords for humans to remember and really, really easy passwords for computers to guess. Because if you're being hacked or there's some kind of hacking attempt going on, it's not a guy at the other end who's just typing a bunch of stuff and he's trying to figure it out. That's not how it works. It's all kind of machine based, and there's different things.
I love the movies when they're always just like the guy's just
typing.
That's like I'm almost in. You know what I mean? It's like, what is he doing?
Yeah, we cringe when we watch those things, IT guys. I have a friend in the movie business who I'm always telling her, like, if you need help, call me. I'll tell you how to write the scene.
Right.
But so the misconception is that it should be overly complicated, capital letters and characters, special characters, and those things are what's called common substitutions. So mostly everybody is familiar with using the @ symbol for the A. Mostly everybody is familiar with using a money sign for an S. Throwing a bunch of those kinds of characters in your password doesn't make it any more secure because the attacker is accounting for that. And they kind of understand it. So what we have told people and what we try to get our clients to do is you want a longer password. I say the minimum is really 12 characters, but I mean, I think people should be pushing for 16 to 20 at this point. And it's that length of the password that makes it incredibly difficult to break into. It goes up exponentially every character you add. So you're adding an incredible amount of difficulty on a 16-character password that you wouldn't have with even a 10 or an 8.
Right.
So I think that's important. And we tell people to use a long phrase or a sentence that they're supposed to, they can remember. I think that's good. And they all need to be different. Every application that you log into, every account that you have, I know it's a pain, I know it's a burden, but you are only as secure as your weakest link. And someone doesn't necessarily need to break into your office email if they break into some other unsecure thing that's using the same password.
Right.
So the example that I always give people is I have a pizza.com account. I know I don't look like a guy who has a pizza.com account, but I do.
I'm going to look into it.
If you want to order pizza from some places, you got to have a pizza.com account.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. That's the most valuable thing that you've just said to me today. That's what I'm taking away from this.
And I'm on a diet, so I haven't had pizza in a while, but I want everybody to live well and have some pizza.
First thing I say when I get home, honey, you're not going to believe what I found out today. Pizza.com, it's a thing.
So my pizza.com account was broken into. And somebody ordered...
I don't mean to laugh.
No, it was pretty funny to me. Believe me, calling a Mahoning County Sheriff's deputy over to make a police report on $90 of fraudulently ordered pizza was an experience for sure. That guy definitely didn't want to be there. But so the account was broken into, and fortunately it was a completely different password from all the rest of my passwords.
Sure.
But had it not been...
Right.
Whatever their security issue was could have led to all of my other accounts being broken into over something that was, trivial and basically a joke. So I think that's incredibly important, and I think people overlook how important that can be. And the question that I always get from that as a follow-up is, well, how do I remember 200 different passwords?
You don't.
You don't.
Right.
You either need a password management tool, or you need some kind of single sign-on platform like we were talking about earlier. So
Right.
all of these things work in conjunction.
717 Credit Union. Business services designed to meet your daily needs. Commercial loans, business deposits, merchant and payroll services. 717 Credit Union. It's knowing you were treated right every time.